Hey YouTube, SlingBlade98 here. Boy, am I getting tired of this pattern of my internet getting turned off and on and off and on and off. But let's just get straight to the topics before my damn connection goes down again. The first thing I'd like to talk about is TNA's main event Maffia storyline, and I really have to give them their props. This is a very entertaining storyline. I love how it's formatted, and in terms of easily accessible televised wrestling here in the States, maybe they're saying better on the indies or Japan or dare I say Mexican wrestling, but as far as what I mentioned goes, this is probably the best thing we have going right now in terms of TNA and WWE. Definitely the best thing in TNA in recent memory, and my favorite thing since the World X Cup ended. It kind of has a vibe similar to that of the Invasion angle, if you know what I mean. Two teams of main eventers, superpowers that you normally wouldn't get to see together, teaming up in that way, going out and waging war, and it just is, whether it's young versus old or company versus company, it's just got to be good with wrestlers like that. Anyways, I love the way they have the two teams formatted. As far as the veteran team go, they're the ones actually entitled the Main Event Mafia. It's pretty much the veterans you'd expect in TNA. Angle, who is obviously needs no introduction. He has probably the biggest rep, at least in the 2000s, of any of them. Obviously everyone knows Nash was big back in the 90s with the NWO. Had some recognition with WWE in the early to mid 2000s. Sting is there, who's also on his annual yearly 2 or 3 day long title run after Bound for Glory. And as far as Booker T goes, he's the only one who I really have anything to say about. I'm worried about the guy because he seems to be borderlining on schizophrenia. For a while he was normal Booker T, then he was King Booker, which was just an obnoxious mess. And then he was normal Booker T again, which I was thankful about when he first came to TNA. And now he's seemingly from Nigeria. I mean, come on, please, TNA. I mean, he may be African American, but he's not African. He's from Houston, Texas, for God's sake. This is just idiotic. He's talking with this bizarre accent, and he's using all these figures of speech about elephants and the savannah. I've met people from Africa. They don't talk like that. I mean, obviously some foreign languages might sound funny to those who don't speak them, but I don't really think anyone sounds that stupid. Pretty much it's become a chore to listen to some of his segments. And to put it in perspective, listening to King Booker was a bit more of a walk in the park than this, because at least while he was stupid, he could be deciphered what he was saying. As far as this goes, it's hard to even understand him. So that's kind of dumb. It doesn't really kill the Main Event Mafia's credibility. It just adds a bit of an air of goofiness around Booker T on his part. As far as the young guys go, I really like how they've done this. Kind of Samoa Joe and AJ Styles being the team captains who don't totally agree on everything, but they've pulled together for their cause, and they're getting it done in the end. And then, all the other guys in TNA, the younger guys who you'd expect to come play the part of the cavalry soldiers in this type of storyline, like Eric Young, Black Machismo. Surprisingly, ODB even actually showed up, so maybe we'll see some more of those. Oh God, the Prince Justice Brotherhood. As you can see by my expression, it's horrifying to even think of that again. But God forbid we'll see Shark Boy or Curry Man again. Wouldn't be opposed to Christopher Daniels actually coming back as himself again. But what I'm really impressed about in that whole setup is how they're playing the wild card thing with the Motor City Machine Guns. To add on to the fact that their sheer amount of entertaining, high-flying talent is a good additive to any prospect. The way that they're being played off is not really agreeing with Joe, kind of skeptics. Like, it gives you something to watch for. Like, you think they could actually, turn at any moment, or maybe they'll backstab him or something. Just makes you pay more attention, and that's always nice to have in the storyline. You don't always get that these days. So I really love what they're doing with that. They've got good teams on both sides. So I look forward to see what TNA is doing with that in the future. Anyways, the next thing I'd like to talk about is the election. I don't know if anyone who watches me is from out of the country. Maybe a few people from the UK or something, maybe. But here in the United States, we just recently elected our first black president, Barack Obama. Congratulations to him, and personally, I'm very glad about this. I think that, it's Bush fatigue. I personally am 14, so, Bush being in there for 8 years, that's over half my life, and really I don't want to look back and say that I had yet another third term of Bush pretty much coming on, because let's just be honest, that's what McCain would have been in many ways. And, I wasn't totally, I'm grateful for what McCain did for this country. Thank you for serving this country, John McCain. But I was more worried about him actually passing, because he is, after all, 72 years old. And people who were born in, longer ago generations didn't have the early on benefit of modern medicine, so they might not live as long as the current life expectancy for people born in maybe say the 70s or 80s would. And the thought of Sarah Palin, if McCain ever did sadly pass, with her finger on the nuclear button, just scared the living shit out of me. So congratulations to Barack Obama. I'm sure he'll do a good job at turning this country around in some of the areas we're struggling in. And on to other topics. That's all I'm going to say on that. Anyways, on to WWE news. I'm basically going to go on to what they did on the 3-hour special on Raw. I didn't watch ECW, so if you got anything important that happened there, and actually it wasn't just some stupid tag team match with some mid-card jobber and then something with Mark Henry and Matt Hardy, tell me, because I have a feeling that's all it was. That's all ECW ever really is, with the occasional Tommy Dreamer thing thrown in, or maybe Miz and Morrison if we're lucky. But pretty much fill me in on what happened on ECW if you would. I would appreciate it. As far as Raw goes, I actually did see that one. Mike Adamle resigned as general manager, and just like the whole election night, it seemed like something drug out that ended in an anticlimactic way. He just came out and commented on how he slapped Orton and had become the very thing he set out to not become as general manager. And then he said, I had an agenda, I didn't want to, and just walked away. So, that ended that, and Orton's so-called ultimatum ended, and, he faced, sorry, weird noise in the background. Anyways, he faced CM Punk later on, and Ted DiBiase interfered. Got kicked in the head, which, just like Spinnernet did in his video, that made me laugh my ass off. That was funny as hell, and it really kind of hurt Cody Rhodes and Manu's credibility in the backstage vignette where they were talking to him, acting like they were going to retaliate, but they stood there huffing and puffing like little bitches. So he didn't really do anything about that. They didn't really do anything about that, rather. And it just makes me think, because of that and the way Orton kind of had this leadership quality about them in that segment, just makes me think maybe we could see a stable with those three somewhere in the near future. And hopefully, if that does happen, Ted DiBiase will get a part in it, or go on to something better. Anyways, though, what else happened? Jericho won the title back. I don't know why. I'm glad he did, but I really don't know why they had him lose it in the first place. I don't know if Batista did something wrong, like get suspended, or if he, I don't know if they're just trying to add on to Jericho's amount of title reigns, but it's kind of stupid to have Batista, who's one of your main faces, lose the title back in such a short amount of time. I was actually commenting on this to a couple of my friends, saying, Batista's a humongous draw, and you're going to want to turn this into a feud. Maybe they could have, a Batista versus Jericho feud, an actual feud, rather than just a 2-week-long thing, or perhaps, going down to like the Royal Rumble or No Way Out, and, maybe Batista will finally win it back, say, like, I got screwed, or something like that, and your normal face excuses against a heel. Anyways, I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't do more with that. Anyways, maybe I'll get back onto what happened on Raw a little bit more in detail, but for now, this seems like enough of a video. I'm glad to be back on, and hopefully I'll be able to be here for a little bit longer this time before my internet inevitably gets shut down again. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for not unsubscribing even when I said I'd stop making videos. You know me, I'm never going to stop. Anyways, thank you for watching. Slingblade98 out. Have a good night, folks.